Football is the greatest sport on earth, but I'll never be able to play it the same way again.
This one particular day I was in a local park and I was just doing kick-ups because I was doing like an hour of sport a day at the time. At that point I was playing like 2 hours and a half every single week of football on a 3G pitch. And I just felt like this twinge in my leg. It was only small, but I knew there was something that wasn't right. So I stopped, picked up the ball. I was like, no, I'm not going to do any more. I'll just give it a rest, as you would do if you had like a muscle injury, which I thought all it was. Hopped back into the car and that, and drove home. It got progressively worse over the next couple of days and weeks. And one particular day, I was walking with my mates. At this point, I had a massively bad limp. I was called Hopalong as a nickname because that's how bad it had gone. And I was way behind because of my limp, so I was like trying to catch up, and I just happened to catch the heel of my mate's foot with like the instep of my shoe, and it twisted and snapped my femur, and I got rushed off to hospital. And then I went for x-rays and MRIs and other bits and pieces at that particular hospital, and then they were like, there's something not right here, we're going to send you up to the Freeman in Newcastle, where you're going to go through a couple more tests and things. And then I had a biopsy, and then I was told I had Ewing sarcoma. They told us relatively recently after I got my diagnosis that the cancer in my leg was particularly large. Like, it usually classify a large cancer tumour is like 250 mil, but mine was 750 mil, so it was like 3 times the limit, like the level for a large tumour. And they were like, we will talk to you about this in the distant future, when we got through the chemotherapy to a certain point, but there's a very high chance we'll have to amputate your leg. I was like, right, okay, so at least I don't know. Obviously the most gutting side of that was the fact that underlying truth to that was obviously I wouldn't play football in the same way again. I think if an element of the sport that I played had played a factor in my cancer, it's just difficult thing to consider and bear with, really. So.
"3G" stands for third generation, and these are the latest artificial pitches that are now being rolled out across the country. They're made from synthetic plastic and they are infilled with a crumb rubber. The crumb rubber is made from, on an average pitch, 20 to 30,000 shredded car tyres. Car tyres contain significant amounts of known carcinogens and toxins. Those carcinogens are PAHs, or polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. They are benzenes, and they've also got things like lead, mercury, cadmium, and a whole lot of toxic metals as well. Lewis lived for football. He went into remission, but 6 months later he relapsed for the first time. It was only in between his first and second relapse when he learnt about any possible link between playing regularly on 3G pitches and cancer. A group of university lecturers and research students decided that they would undertake a small piece of research to see whether there was any possibility that the shredded car tyres could leach toxic materials. So they used zebrafish, which are a known study, and they dissolved shredded car tyres and this crumb rubber into a solution and exposed the zebrafish. All those zebrafish died within 48 hours as a result. So this idea that the FA and the government say that any carcinogens and toxins are locked into the crumb rubber has proven to be false. And for this reason, we should be taking sensible and reasonable precautions against exposing our children to these toxins and carcinogens. The Football Association made many assertions that all the research said that it was perfectly safe to play. But actually, when you looked at the research, there was very little of it. And some of that research was described by Professor Waterson, who is an eminent toxicologist at Stirling University, as Mickey Mouse research. It didn't stand up to scrutiny. And the particular one that the FA quoted was regarding a football team of Norwegian players. I think they were about 25 to 30, who rolled around in crumb rubber for an hour or so. The following day, they gave urine specimens, and those urine specimens didn't show any toxins in them. Firstly, this was just an hour's exposure, and how legitimate is that when Lewis was probably 4 or 5 hours a week over 5 or 6 years. Secondly, when they actually researched, the research paper was published, it only identified 8 or 10 soccer players and their urine specimens. So what happened to the other 20 urine specimens? Big question mark there. So this piece of research that the FA and the government used to say it's perfectly safe is, as Professor Waterson described, Mickey Mouse research. Lewis had an incredible sense of humour. He loved life, he loved living, he loved football, he loved the Borough, his football team. He was a season ticket holder over many years. But sadly, he relapsed for the second time just before and died as a result of complications from treatment. It's really hard sometimes. But Lewis loved life, he loved living, and was full of life. There were 4 in the ward at the time, and 3 of the 4 on the ward were regular players on 3G pitches and had cancer.
Meeting Nigel was really great, especially since our paths have been crossing so much. I just wish it was underneath better circumstances.
There was just this kind of solid kind of sadness. I'd heard about him before because we both get treatment on the same ward. We've been kind of passing ships most of the time, and you hear about him because he'd been on the news and things like that. And he'd be in and he'd be out just before I get treatment and things, and it never happened for us to talk directly. It was just something, looking back on it and reflecting, it's something I kind of massively regret. I wish I'd gone out my way to find him and talk to him about it, because obviously I was having the same qualms.
I feel like I learned that there's a lot more of a concerning link between cancer and 3G pitches than I originally suspected there was. I thought the link would have been minimal at best, but obviously talking to Nigel and doing a bit of my own research, I've sort of realised that that's not the case at all, that this is genuinely a lot more of a thicker and more dangerous situation than I even anticipated in the first place. Standing next to this 3G pitch, I feel very, very uncomfortable. Literally, this is about as far as I really want to go. I don't want to move any further back than I currently am. Just knowing that the actual rubbers underneath my feet is more than enough to have to struggle with. It's very annoying that a surface like this that a lot of amputee footballers played on is really getting in the way of me being able to get back to the sport that I used to love and thoroughly enjoy playing, particularly since I've already spent enough time away from that sport with my injury and my difficulties with pain and things like that, which have limited me to how long I could really play on there. So the fact that I still can't play on it because of these worries that I have is really, really frustrating and upsetting, really.
My argument is that an absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, and actually we need to do more research. We need to understand better what exposure over a long term, particularly to goalkeepers who dive, who ingest, who get cuts and graces, whether those toxins and carcinogens do get into the bloodstream and whether they do actually cause cancers. And my assertion is that until we can be absolutely sure, we should not be conducting an industrial scale experiment onto the health and well-being of our children in this country.